my parents were unfortunately divorced back in '55, and so I was, and my dad, because of the military, they lost contact with each other. Back then, you couldn't just pick up your cell phone and or on Facebook or whatever. But so they lost track of each other, and so consequently, I didn't know anything about her except her name and where they were from and all this. So I think it was in my early 20s when I just had this feeling like, well, gosh, I'd always heard this person's name, Janet. Janet Ospall was her maiden name. So I figured, well, somebody important, so important as a biological parent, yeah, I wanted to know more about her, and even if she's still alive. So I started looking for her. And I wrote everybody from Dear Abby to the FBI to the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, all kind of government agencies. And every reply would come back with the same response. Dear Mr. Duffy, I'm sorry to tell you, yada, 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 and it was always negative. So it took me 4 years to find her, but I finally found her. And she was living in Yellowsprings, right up the road here. She had married the mayor of the town of village of Yellow Springs. And so I got this letter from someone, I still don't know who it was from, saying that, and I put advertisements in several different newspapers. I got this letter saying that, Dear Danny, I saw the advertisement in the Cincinnati Enquirer looking for your mother. And person said, I know where she is, So I wrote this person back and saying, okay, give it to me, And so I called this person and found out it was a cousin. And so on Mother's Day, 1980, I was watching one of my favorite programs, which was the Waltons, back then. So the phone rang. I picked it up and said, hello. And this little, small, still voice says, Danny? I said, yes, this is Dan Duffy. I says, who's this? She said, this is your mother. And I'm thinking, my mother? What do you mean, my mom? This is not my mom. I'm thinking of my stepmother, And so my stepmother, Peggy. And it finally hit me, oh my God, this is my mother, my biological mother, Janet. So after I pushed my heart back from my throat, and started talking, we talked for a good couple hours, And it was like we'd known each other all our lives. And that was one of the happiest moments of my life when she finally called me and we were able to connect after all these years, after 25 years. So we made it. At that time I was stationed at a base in Southern California, and we had made arrangements for her to fly out from Ohio to visit me there in California. So she did. So they finally came when I drove out to the airport at Orange County, and I'm glad that I got there early because her flight arrived early. So I was there at the gate as her plane was off-boarding. Everybody was coming out, and all of a sudden my eyes went to this person, this little gal about 5'5", And I don't know how I knew it was her, but somehow I knew it was her. And so our eyes locked, and I went up to her and just hugged her, and didn't want to let her go. And she started crying. And so I was hugging her and I was smelling her hair, And so I don't know what happened, but I started crying too. I think maybe that must have triggered a long lost memory or something, because a mother and a baby they're so close sometimes, and a baby can differentiate uh, a mother's scent from another person's scent. So I'm thinking maybe that's what happened. I don't know. But anyway, we had a nice little visit, and she stayed there for about a week or so with me and my first wife. And, you know, we had a wonderful relationship for 15 years before she finally passed away of cancer in 1995. And, in finding her, I found other siblings that I didn't know I had, you know, and um, find out that she had married the mayor of Yellowsprings, and he was a black man. So I had biracial siblings, and it's like some people would consider that taboo or whatever. But I'm thinking, what's the big deal? You know, they're people too. It's like, so I finally met them, and just it was a wonderful experience. Meeting my other siblings I didn't know I had. So unfortunately, I wish she was still alive, but she'd have been pretty old too, like my dad. My dad died when he was 68 years old, back in 1988. I think I mentioned that before. But it was very very nice having her back in my life.